Well, allegations of abuse by police are raising fears that Egypt's security agencies are growing out of control. For 2 years now, they have a largely free hand in cracking down against Islamic militants, of which is a threat to the government, says one and the same. African Affairs analyst James Wood joins us now via Skype to talk more on this. Many thanks for joining us on TVC News. Now, surely the Egyptian police aren't working in isolation. This must be a state assignment. What's your take?
Well, thank you very much for having me on. The situation in Egypt is extremely worrying because if we look at the issue in regards to international law, we look at the disappearance occurring with state police, military personnel under the orders of the government. International law itself actually, they define and enforce disappearances as the arrest, detention, abduction, or any other form of deprivation of liberty by agents of the state or by persons or groups or persons acting with authorization support of the state. So now individuals that are actually disappearing, these are those, as you rightly mentioned, from the Muslim Brotherhood, who have, since LCC came into power, have been designated as a terrorist organization. Also, the president put in the law actually banning all sorts of protests. So for those who are protesting against any state oppression or whatsoever, are deemed to be a threat to the state and are also facing such accusations where people are disappearing without anybody knowing where they've gone to. So this, more or less, as we're saying, that it cannot happen in isolation. There has to be an authority from a higher place, which is the reason I'm mentioning the state. But also at the same time, as we're doing this, I think it's becoming more of a repressive regime where people are afraid to actually express their opinions, where governance is actually failing them. So I think as any society, we should actually have the freedom to go out on the streets and protest when things are not going the way they should. But as it seems right now, young activists, people accused of being part of the Muslim Brotherhood, people are being abducted with no real evidence. There's been many situations and cases whereby individuals from universities have just finished their exams. As they're walking out, they've been abducted. The families don't even know where they've gone to. It's been 10 days, 20 days with no information whatsoever. But sadly to this as well, as you already know, is that Egypt is also state and party to the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights that prohibits arbitrary and illegal detentions.
Well,
so
James,
to be having this happening, yes, sorry.
Last month, the government promised reforms which will hold abusive policemen accountable. What's been done on this?
Well, unfortunately, as we're saying that a government itself, number one, has actually denied knowing of any tortures or abductions taking place. So that's probably the first thing we need to look at, that they said that these have happened particularly in isolation and nothing to do with them. But they have mentioned that they will look into any cases as such. But so far of the cases reported, only very few have actually been looked into. And no judgment has actually really been passed. So which raises the question that, is this just a political rhetoric just to appease those who are actually raising questions? Or is it really going to be put into place? So far, I'd have to say nothing seems to have been put into place. People are still going missing. Still questions are being asked. And still a lot of innocent people are victim to this just by association.
I must say here that police abuses were one of the complaints fueling the 2011 uprising, which ousted Hosni Mubarak. So is Egypt getting to that point again?
Well, I think Egypt really needs to learn from its history. Over the past few decades, we've actually seen that the long experience of grinding oppression can actually plant seeds for future upheaval. So I would say yes, very much so, because we can look at Mubarak, we can look at Morsi. It was all this aspect of the repressive nature of their state, which actually caused people to want that change. So these are the same mistakes repeating themselves. But I think the only issue that we face right now is that media within Egypt itself hasn't seemed to criticize Egyptian authority that much. And I think maybe this comes to the fear of the North Sinai area, where we're seeing a more upsurge in militant attacks, terrorist attacks with ISIL and co. So it points those who are actually trying to showcase that Egypt is going down the wrong path. They're automatically criticized as being funded by terrorist groups to say this, or even secondly, just seen as those who are against the progressive nature that they believe Egypt is taking in fighting terrorism. But despite the fact that there isn't any proper proof for some of these people who are being abducted and the oppressive nature of it.
James Wood, African Affairs analyst, would like to thank you for joining us on TVC News.
Thank you very much.